Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're new here, I'm Natalie, and in this channel I actually like to share my financial journey with all of you. I have been gone for what seems like months and months and months. So before I dive into kind of like, first of the year, sort of like 2025, anything, I wanted to take a few minutes and kind of give you a rundown of what happened to me in Q2 and Q3 of 2024. Believe it or not, I actually recorded pretty much every single video that I wanted to for this past 6 months. But I got so overwhelmed with the amount of videos that were needing to be edited that I just never got around to it. So I think the last video that I had in this channel was a setup for July. So I decided to just leave that as is, not worry about like editing any of that. At this point, I feel like it's so late already for me to do that, that it just made sense for me to just have everything kind of reflected in one video. Be up to date and everything that has to do with my finances and budgeting moving forward. If this is the first video that you're watching of mine, hi, I'm Natalie, and I am a single individual in my 30s living in Charlotte, North Carolina as of 2024, and I am a nature professional. I love to travel. Some of my hobbies include reading, exploring home decor stores, and recently I've started coloring a lot thanks to TikTok, and I enjoy anything personal finances and spending plans and just overall living life. I want to find a balance with my life and enjoy all the little things that life throws at you, but also being responsible with my finances. So if you're interested in seeing my journey as I continue to pay off the last remainder of my debt, really try to hone in on some goals that I have for 2025 and live life in Charlotte, North Carolina, please subscribe and we'll get right into this video. So I do apologize if I sound a little weird. I spent the last week and a half sick without being able to talk, so I'm still kind of getting over it, but I have only a few days left for my break, so I wanted to make sure that I took some time to be able to record these videos. So as I said, I definitely wanted to kind of give you a rundown of what happened this 2024 and where I was and where we're starting from. I'm using my iPad moving forward. I definitely wanted to minimize the amount of stickers and stationery that I use on a regular basis, and also to make this a lot easier for me to record, I figured I need to start using my iPad back again, because this I use for work and for my personal planning, but never for my finances. So we're gonna see if this year is the year that I finally transition fully to my iPad. So I just literally opened a notebook on GoodNotes and started writing things down. Okay, so for this video, as I said, I wanted to kind of reflect on 2024 over the last 6 months, and also give you guys a life update on where I've been, what's been going on with my life, and just so that you guys kind of have an idea of where I am as of the beginning of 2025. I have been gone, even though I recorded everything, but there were definitely lots of things going on in my life. So in the last few months of Q3, I know that that's kind of where I left off in my last video. I was planning a trip to Puerto Rico with my family. That was going to be like our first trip in a long while. That was something I was really excited about. We got to spend about 10 days over there and it was great. We got to see lots of family and we had a good time. Definitely went over budget because I did take family out, treated them to like dinner and things like that. So those were things that I wasn't expecting to do as often while I was there. And for the most part, we were in pretty big groups of like 8 and 10 people. So whenever we treated them, whether that was me or my dad or my mom, we kind of split everything in half and we had a big group of people to treat. So that was really fun, and it was good to like kind of do a family trip that hadn't happened in like 15 years. I also got a promotion at work. This was something that I had been working on for about 2 years. And I know one of my goals for 2024 was to either get a promotion at work or be able to transition into a new role somewhere else. And thankfully I got a promotion and came with a significant raise. I got about a 15 to like 16% raise. That just was a major change in my life. And I was really excited and grateful for the opportunity to get that promotion. So that happened in August, and I kind of knew back in July that that was going to happen. I just didn't know the number, so I was pleasantly surprised with that. My manager and I worked really hard with our HR leader to kind of like target a specific number, and he was really honest from the get-go what was doable for sure and what could potentially be an option, but it all depended on our CFO. So thankfully, like everything worked out and I got a higher raise than I expected, and I'm really happy to be where I am. Because of this, definitely fell into that lifestyle creep. I think once I paid off my car, I got this promotion, which increased my salary by like pre-tax a good $20,000 almost. So I definitely felt that sort of lifestyle creep happening. I had lots of shopping trips to like Marshalls and TJ Maxx and buying lots of things on Amazon, shopped for clothing. I also did this. I kind of had an idea that I was going to do at some point in the year. I just didn't know that I was going to do as often, but a lot of my beauty and skincare items, they were already expired really. So I knew that I was going to replenish a lot of specifically beauty items because my skincare items I tend to run through pretty often. But I knew that I needed to replace lots of makeup basically. And with that, again, just going to like all these random stores and just like seeing what's out there definitely had my shopping kind of get out of control there. And this started happening even before my promotion. So I think once I got that car loan off my regular bill rotation, that kind of like opened up the ability for me to just spend more money on random stuff that I wasn't allowing myself to before. So definitely fell into that. It's something that I want to work on this year for sure. And I'll touch on that in my 2025 goals. But I overall definitely saw that lifestyle creep come up. In Q3, I also started a new hobby, which also led to me shopping a lot. So I started coloring a lot more just for fun. I think me and half of the world basically is obsessed with like those TikTok videos, and I fell into that as well. With any hobby, my thing has always been like I always go full on. Like when I want something and I know I want to try to work on a new hobby or whatever it is, I literally just go all out. So I definitely bought the huge pack of the Ohuhu markers, bought tons of coloring books. I already had some because I've always colored throughout the years, but I definitely fell into that trap of like buying all these little cute books to color with. And honestly, it's been great to get me off of my phone, which I appreciate, but it was definitely a huge investment. And I know that it's kind of ridiculous because those markers dry out within a year or two. So I am trying to consistently just make a point to color so that at least some of my money back in that investment. But that was one of my goals for 2024, to revisit old hobbies or have new hobbies, and coloring was definitely something that stuck. I tried to like play on my Nintendo Switch, and I do, but I don't really. I have an old Nintendo Switch that's like the light version, and I guess because I never used it, the battery life is not great. So like if I try to play for an hour and a half, it's already needing to be recharged. So that's kind of been a fail, but I'm not going to be spending more money on a new Switch, so that's just kind of out the window. I bought one game this year. And I enjoyed it, but it's not doable for me, especially when the whole point of it is for it to be like travel friendly and to last several hours. So that's the one hobby that I feel like stuck. Then for Q4, lots of craziness happened this quarter, which I kind of saw coming, but at the same time I didn't. So first off, we had a mass reduction in force at work. So I know that tech has been suffering the last couple of years, and we had gone through a smaller layoff at my company I would say like about a year and a half ago. We just had a mass reduction this time around, and it affected every single area of the business. And with that, my team actually got reduced by half, which was crazy. I was very thankful that I got to keep my job, but I lost, a lot of great coworkers and colleagues that I had been working with for a year and a half plus. So that was not the greatest way to kind of start this last quarter of the year. With this, also, my workload increased, and my role has kind of shifted to be, instead of focused on international employees, which is what my role had been for the last 2 years, it is now focused on the global company as a whole. There have been lots of changes there that also has meant that my work-life balance is not as good as it used to be before. That was a huge shock to the system, let's just say. It just made me really thankful for the trust that the team had in me in terms of like my leaders, and also just to have a job still. Like, I think we're all in that boat right now where like it's hard to find a new job to replace whatever you lost, and it's not something that I want to experience, and I feel for all of my teammates or ex-colleagues. After that, I decided to kind of pivot on this last quarter in terms of like the goals that I had, and sort of like push all the money that I was saving for different things towards my emergency fund. So for the majority of the year, I had a 2.5 month emergency fund. I would say it was about 8,500. With the interest accrued, it had increased to like 8,600. And I had saved up for an HR certification course that I was going to take. I had saved about like $1,000 for that. Had also started saving for my Florida condo emergency fund. And because this was around the same time my tenants renewed, and they've always been great, I decided to kind of shift that money to my regular emergency fund. As of right now, in January 2025, my emergency fund sits at almost 11,000. I think I'm like shy by like $70 or something to hit that 11,000 mark. My goal is to definitely increase that to at least 4 months of expenses. That's around $15,000, give or take. And as the time goes on this year, I definitely want to increase that as well, even more. I ideally would like to have at least 5 months. My current company does at least a month and a half of severance whenever they have reduction in forces. This last time they did about 2.5 months. I know that that's probably not going to be the case depending on the time of year that it happens in, but I want to like increase that to at least 15K. Yeah, and this is just me talking about what goals and savings I had to kind of like reallocate to make this happen quickly, and it just made the most sense at the time. So I also got to take a trip to NYC. That was kind of I wouldn't say a spur of the moment, but I kind of started like thinking on doing a day trip to NYC or spending 24 hours over there, and then it turned into a 4-day thing. I hadn't been to New York in a few years, and I got to do things that I hadn't done yet, but it rained 2 of the 4 days that we were there, and it was freezing cold. It was in the 20s. So it kind of sucked. We were also with younger kids because I was with my best friend. So New York is definitely not for kids. That's just what I'm gonna say and leave it at that. But I definitely would rethink going with kids next time, especially in the winter time. So I had budgeted $1,500 for this trip, including like hotel stay. I actually got a free flight round trip for this trip, so because of my points in my card, so I had to pay for hotels and transportation and, you know, everything else we did. So hotels in New York are extremely expensive, and it was divided into 2 adults, so it was still kind of a lot. So I had budgeted that $1,500, but ended up going over it by $400 in that trip. And then I actually ended up doing a day trip like I had intended to have New York be to Chicago. So I did a literally 30-hour trip, I should say. Like, I landed in Chicago on a Saturday morning, like literally at 9 a.m. and left on Sunday at like 6. And I had budgeted about $350 for that outside of the flight, because I did pay for that flight separately. And I ended up spending about $200 more just because of some taxes that the hotel had. And then I ended up just like spending a little bit more in souvenirs and things like that. So overall, I think it was money well spent. So I'm kind of glad that I got to do that. And Chicago was beautiful, and it was really cold but not rainy. And then this last day, the second day we were there, it got beautiful. It was like sunny and like in the 40s, so it felt just like amazing. So I definitely would love to do a solo trip to Chicago again and do a show or something, but that will probably be in the next few years. Love that. And that happened in December, so right after Thanksgiving. I ended up saving about $600 for my Christmas budget. I didn't save over time or anything like that. I just saved over maybe a paycheck or two. Unfortunately, I still went over budget, but I feel like it was much better planned than in years prior. I typically don't plan at all. So the fact that I only spent an extra $167, that actually makes me proud. A lot of this extra money was from like little small gifts that I ended up buying last minute for people that I was gonna be seeing during Christmas time. So I had a few gifts that I had to buy last minute, and then I actually realized that I didn't have any of my wrapping paper or like all of the items that you need to like put together Christmas gifts and stuff. So I spent about $60 on wrapping paper and tape and everything in between. So that was that. And then I also, as it seems like it's gonna be normal moving forward, my escrow account and my home loan ended up being negative for the year again. So it seems like I will need to pay an extra $1,400 to that escrow account so that my payment doesn't change for 2025, which is basically the same thing that happened last year. I think last year I had to pay an extra $1,200 for it. And I already have most, if not all of this money set aside for this. So I'm gonna make this payment in January, but that's just something I wanted to highlight. Maybe selling this condo will be one of my goals for 2025, depending on how the market is. It's not gonna be a personal goal, but if the right opportunity comes up, I will definitely take advantage of it. But at this point, I don't think it's gonna happen anytime soon. And then I ended up my 2024 being sick. I don't know why I'm not 100% yet. I haven't had a fever in like 5 days, but you know, sometimes life tells you to like sit down and not do anything. And I had so many plans to record so many videos over the last week that I was out of work, and it just didn't happen. So that's my life update. I feel like I've talked for forever, but I wanted to make sure that I got to share all of this with you all, because I was recording all of my monthly setups and closing them out and actually keeping track of them everywhere. I actually have my full 2024 expenses, income and expenses. So I'm gonna go over this real quick, hopefully. But I wanted to share that with you so that you have an idea of what my income looks like and what a normal budget kind of looks like, because I think I am privating all of my videos. I kind of want to start fresh for 2025. So For my income, I definitely, like I said, saw a huge increase in my income, and I had some money that was owed to me, like sent back. I had a few bonuses throughout the year because of different projects that I worked on, and of course, I saw that increase in my salary because of my promotion. So for my income, this is net income, and like I said, some of this money is from money that was owed to me. I think a good $3,000 in total, maybe money that I spent and I bought maybe concert tickets or flights or something and people paid it back to me. But because sometimes they take so long, I always count it as sort of like a loss in my like month to month budget and then kind of like add it as an income whenever it comes. So technically they're not income, but this is kind of the number that I came up with based on that. So for my income, I had a total income of $106,000. This is after taxes and everything that I contribute to my 401k and things like that. I would say like a good $10,000 are like extra bonuses, money owed to me, and just maybe money that was gifted to me. So that was my income. For my fixed expenses, for my rent, I paid rent every single month of 2024 except in March. So I would pay rent to my parents when I lived with them, and then of course I moved to North Carolina, so I also had my rent monthly here. But in March I didn't count it as part of my regular monthly expense because I had saved up a moving fund. So I kind of paid my March rent and my deposit and all of that out of that savings, so I didn't count it here. But in total, I actually spent $15,318 in rent for 9 months of a 2-bedroom, 2-bath in the city of Charlotte. For my HOA, this is for my condo in Florida, I spent almost $4,000, so $3,966 with 53 cents. For water, this is for my bill in Charlotte. So I ended up spending about $400 in water for 9 months of the year. I also have my iCloud, and that's $3 or $2.99 a month. So that was $78.42 for the year. For my student loans, my minimum payments totaled $2,113. Once I started adding extra money to the principal, my minimum payment decreased, but what I do is that I still send the difference between what my new minimum payment is and what my old minimum payment was to the principal every single month. So that was $2,000 there. And then for my storage unit, which I had for 2 months out of the year, I ended up paying $459 with 44 cents. My electricity bill, again, this is for my apartment in Charlotte, ended up being $587.31. For my cell phones, that ended up being $1,500. This is for 5 lines under Cricket. I pay for my family's plan, and that's just my way of like helping them out. For my Best Buy credit card, I had a credit card balance on this card for the first 3 months of the year, so that was $30 minimum payment every month, and that ended up being $90. For internet, $399.92. And then I also had Max for 6 months total in this year. I had the Black Friday deal for a little bit there, canceled it, and restarted it once the Black Friday deal came up for 2024 again. So I've paid $20.28. For car insurance, I spent $2,097 with 29 cents, and for a good chunk of the year, I was paying month to month, but in September, I actually paid the premium, so this is actually no longer a bill moving forward. I just save up for it or kind of cash flow it when the month comes. For my Mazda, for the 4 or 5 months that I had a car loan still, I paid $14.90.85 for my minimum payment there. For Spotify, I have the family plan, and I pay almost $23 now for the access for everyone, so that's about $250 a year. And for Canva, I did have the subscription for a little bit there, so I ended up spending almost $45 in the year. And then for Amazon, For about, I would say like 8 months of the year, I had the monthly subscription, so that ended up being $135 with 99 cents. And as of December, I've officially canceled this. Let's see how long I last. For my total fixed expenses, I ended up spending $28,962 with 49 cents. So for my variable expenses, for groceries, I spent $4,029 with 29 cents. And I think I'm pretty good with kind of my budget here. Anywhere from like 300 to 350 is kind of my sweet spot in terms of groceries. I would really love to like lower it, but because I eat a lot of produce and a lot of fresh items, go through like food very quickly. So we'll see if I can make that better this upcoming year. For gas and tolls, I spent $15.38 with 24 cents. I had, like I said, a couple of like road trips to Florida and up here, so I feel like that's a pretty good number. Obviously, I work from home, so I don't spend a lot of gas on a day-to-day. And then for my variable expense categories, for a long time, I would just have a category for fun. That would encompass everything like household items, shopping, clothing, beauty, etc. So for the few months that I still had that, I spent $2,120.37, which was while I was in Orlando. Then I expanded my list to include everything else. I think the only one that I still had before was eating out, but I wanted to like kind of pinpoint where I was spending a lot of money, and this definitely cleared some things up. So for household, I spent $2,203.31, and this is everything from detergent and cleaning supplies and I don't know, appliances for the home, so like a blender that I just bought in December, things like that. For shopping, this is everything that's like frivolous spending, and this was an eye-opener. So I spent $6,123.37. And keep in mind, this is starting in probably April or May. So the fact that I shopped and spent $6,000 on random crap, oh, it makes me so sick. So shopping is a huge problem, as I stated earlier. Then for eating out, I spent $24.98 with 29 cents. I feel like this is pretty normal, specifically because when I go down to Florida or I go like and hang out with friends, I love to go out to restaurants, and especially now that I don't have the food that I had in Florida, I definitely hit all the spots that I loved back in Orlando. So whenever I go, it's just like at least $250. I feel like that's probably going to be a normal number for me moving forward. For beauty, I spent $4,027 with 78 cents, and this does include at least one hair appointment. It includes my nails, my pedicure, skincare items that I buy, and all of the makeup that I bought, because I bought a shitload of makeup this year. So that's a lot. So that's another area that I definitely want to reel back in this year. And then for clothing, $27.99.78. So another section that I'm just like, this is ridiculous. To be fair, I for a long time didn't buy any clothes because I work from home. So I'm always in sweatpants and like sweatshirts. I'm always freezing. So I started investing, especially now that I'm in a state that actually gets all the seasons. I didn't have any really like out and about sort of like clothing, because everything is sort of like used and abused. So I did spend a lot of money on jackets, on shoes, on boots, on accessories for the winter. But really, I just spent money on clothing for every season, honestly. So it wasn't just that, but that's another area I definitely want to improve. And then for sinking funds, I did a really terrible job at saving for anything. But what I would do is whenever I spent money on things that I knew are typically things that I would categorize under sinking funds, I would categorize it under this. So whether that was my dog's vet appointment, her grooming appointment, her food, car maintenance, item, car inspection, things like that would go under the sinking funds even if I didn't save for it. And in total, this ended up being $45.90 with 55 cents for the year. And then for unbudgeted, I ended up spending $45.36 with 20 cents. And $1,000 from this is from some money I just actually lent to my parents in late November. So it would have been about $3,500. Actually, no, because I also lent them like $300 a few days before that. So this would have been like $3,100 in unbudgeted, but still unacceptable in my eyes. Honestly, I can't think of what it was. It's a combination of a lot of little unbudgeted items. Overall, definitely not great. So in total, I actually spent $34,467.20 in variable expenses, which I never would have thought that my variable expenses would be so much more than my fixed expenses, but here we are. Then for my debt, so as I said at the beginning of the year, I had a balance in my Best Buy credit card. This was a balance for the camera that I'm actually using to record this video, and I needed to pay it off. I had a 6-month grace period to pay it off, and I did that before it ended up actually expiring. So my total here was $19.62 with 99 cents. And then I also had a balance in my PayPal account when I first moved to Charlotte. So that was $2,070 with 12 cents. I had a car loan at $11,013.26. Oops. And this should have a... Okay, that's better. So yeah, so my car loan balance actually was $11,013 with 26 cents at the beginning of the year. And then for my student loans, I ended up paying $3,264.87. So this is all actually money that I paid off for the 2024, for the year of 2024. So in total, I sent $18,311.24 towards my debt. I'm actually kind of pleasantly surprised that I ended up doing that. I think obviously just getting rid of my car loan was the biggest highlight of the year. So really glad that that actually was the case. And then if you do the math here, I have some money left over. That actually is something that I wrote right here. So I ended up having about $13,737.19 left over. So that was for furniture that I purchased when I moved here, any nail appointments that I had, trips that I took, vet visits, lenses, Christmas, Black Friday. I don't know what I meant. Maybe I wrote that wrong. My trip to Puerto Rico, wall art, also some of the savings that I managed to kind of set aside for my goals that I ended up putting in my emergency fund. So this is kind of like the bird's eye view of everything that happened in 2024. I know this is probably such a long video, but I wanted to give you guys a good picture of where I stood in 2024. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm excited to be back and start like recording during the month that life is happening and not being behind by 6 months. So can't wait to like show you guys a little bit more. And my next video will definitely be all about my goals for the year, whether that is financial goals or personal goals, professional goals, things like that. And then I'll also have a video for my January 2025 budget. So if you like this video, please subscribe. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer anything. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.